Welcome to Chentex Multimedia's live streaming on this 5th day of January. Yes, 5 days already into January 2021 is flying. It's off to a flying start. Well, once again, welcome to the show. And today we have very important discussion coming up with Dr. Snya Chadha very soon as well. But right now, first up, let's take a very quick look at what's happening with the weather. With that, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 33 degree. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with 30% chance of a shower, most likely in the afternoon. The chance of a thunderstorm as well. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 10 past 4 and UV index is predicted to reach 14, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for that, Dilraj. Well, right now, as I mentioned before, today we will be, joining with Dr. Snya Chadha, and we're discussing very important issues that's in there. But first up, let's get an update or headlines with the news from ABC.
It has signalled it will appeal against a British court decision to block the extradition of Julian Assange. The WikiLeaks founder is accused of more than a dozen espionage offences relating to the release of thousands of confidential military and diplomatic cables. The judge rejected the Australians' arguments that the charges were politically motivated, but refused the extradition on the basis that Mr Assange was a suicide risk. New South Wales will report at least 2 new coronavirus cases today linked to the growing Western Sydney cluster as alerts are expanded for a bottle shop and nearby market. Authorities want to get the state's daily testing numbers as high as 50,000 to keep the Baralla and Northern Beaches clusters under control. Victorian health authorities have asked more than 1,000 people connected to the latest outbreak to self-isolate after the state recorded a further 3 cases linked to Melbourne's Bayside restaurant cluster. New hospitality venues in the CBD and the city's southeast have been added to the list of exposure sites. And England has been ordered back into a national lockdown in a bid to slow a surge in cases, which has seen more than 50,000 new infections every day for the past week. It comes as Britain became the first country to administer the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Boris Johnson says urgent action is needed to help contain the virus while vaccines are rolled out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this morning that has been the news update, and as I mentioned before, that today we have a very special guest in the studio, and we'll be talking about some very important topic. With that, we'd like to welcome Dr. Snya Chadha. Dr. Ji, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maishi. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining in this morning, and we'll be discussing some very important point. But first of all, let me tell you about Dr. Snya. She owns the practice Jimboomba Pharmacy Medical Center. Her passion for learning and teaching is reflected in her roles as an RICGP examiner and the tutor for GP Academy of Australia. She is also a supervisor for GPTQ to train the registrars working towards fellowship. Dr. Snya had 17 years of work experience before joining this practice in 2015. She has the experience of handling high workloads and is highly skilled in her skin care center, cancer center as well. Her work in surgical experience as an ENT surgeon gives her a very confident approach to all general practice procedures. She works full times and most weekends as well. She obtained her degree of MBBS from India in 1997 and pursued her career in general practice for 5 years after that. So between 2002 and 2008, she did a master's degree in ENT. She has worked as an academic publications, research and thesis on allergic rhinitis, asthma, snoring, sleep apnea, hearing loss and tightness. And during this time, of course, with other interest in ENT diseases are issues of women's health, child health, psychiatry. She has completed a training on IUD and termination of pregnancies in India. She does iron infusions, Mirena incisions and stitching and split ear in practice. Dr. Snya is happily married with a loving husband and 2 grown-up children, both studying medicine or following in the footsteps of mother. She loves the warmth and the sunshine state and the friendly people of Jimbumba. And today she appears with support of Indian Medical Association of Queensland. And once again, that's quite an impressive intro there for you, Dr. J.
Thank you so much, Umeshji. Thank you so much.
Okay, so
it's
today
really
we
nice
are going to be
with you.
discussing some topic which is very, very important. And of course, we know that the official media releases come from Queensland Health. But within our community, there's a lot of angst at this point in time where people are not sure about COVID testing. So, what is, first of all, what is this testing?
So COVID testing we do is for the current infection, whether a person is currently infectious or not, by a test called as a PCR test, right? So there's a swab. So it's a small cotton tip swab which is just inserted gently up the nose and the throat as well. So we can do a combined throat and nose. It is not painful like some people think. It's just that some people are more sensitive. So it's a very simple test. It takes less than a minute to do, and there are various testing clinics. Fortunately, in Queensland, we have plenty of public and private clinics where we can organize this testing. So I can give you more details about that.
Yes, please.
So the testing is either in the public system or in the private system. Mm-hmm. So in the public system, we have more than 30-40 centers all across Brisbane and plenty more in Queensland. So where you can we don't need a referral at all. Patients can just go. They can queue up in the car or as the testing center. So most of the hospitals, just to name a few, like the Logan Hospital, PA Hospital, all the public hospitals, if you just go around their emergency department, you will see the big signs of COVID testing, and you just follow the arrows. So it's very easy. If you just reach there, you follow the arrows and you get into the line. It's advisable to wear masks when you're going for the testing for your safety and others' safety. Also, just go to the Queensland Health website to see the updated hours. Though most are working extended hours and on the weekends as well, but some centers may not be operating on the weekends, right? So the test results, you don't have to worry about going back for test results. The test results will come on your phone as a text message. So the only thing you need to follow is once you get tested, you have to stay confined till the results and wait for the text message to come as negative. You should not be going out and about whilst you are awaiting the test results. However, even if your results are negative, but if you have some symptoms, which are any upper respiratory symptoms like the runny nose, cough, etc., you should still stay confined and seek help from your regular GP. Over a phone appointment, the government has allowed the phone appointments now, so you don't have to go up to the GP practices. You stay safe, let others be safe, book a phone appointment with your regular GP. Now, those people who are worried about long queues in the public system and they are not able to find somebody who's like close by, you can always go to the private pathologies. So we have very good private pathologies in Queensland by name of SNP, Sullivan Nicolaides Pathology, QML, MedLab. So if you just open their websites, most of these pathologies have their private labs working in most areas. Like within a 5 kilometer, you will find a practice like my own practice. We do it for our patients. So the only condition we say is that patients cannot come inside the practice, cannot walk inside when you're coming for the COVID testing. You have to call prior to coming because we take you from a different door entry or we do it outside in your car. It is for the safety of other patients, but then that way you avoid queues, there's no waiting. So if your own GP center does it, that's wonderful. So you get a personalized service there, right? So check with your GP center first or these private pathologies. There are plenty of them who are doing. So again, the results are given by text, and usually the turnaround time at this stage, we're still having it within 24 hours, but when there is more workload and more the capacity on the labs is increased, sometimes there's delay in that up to 2 days, 3 days, depending on weekends. But still, I'm saying we are very good in Queensland at this stage.
Thank you very much for that wonderful information, because there's many people within our community especially who are not sure about the testing. And so now, as you have mentioned, that it's not just the government wants that they can go to private practices as well, as long as they follow those protocols. And of course there's many people who wish to travel, maybe even to India for whatever reasons, and there are some flights and things that are arranged, but then there is a requirement for them to have a test done as well?
Yes, that's right. So recently I have had few patients who had to fly to India. So the Indian government is wanting a test result in the previous 72 hours. So test which is done in previous 72 hours. So what I did for my patients was I organized the test just a day before they were to leave, send them as urgent results, got the results, gave them a printout of the results, and then they were able to fly to India, and they did not need to quarantine. They were very thankful. So they just had the home quarantine for 7 days. They did not have the hotel quarantine because they carried the printout of the test results.
Okay, so there are the benefits of that test, and also in here, just for the peace of mind, many people would like to be, make sure that they're tested as well. So, have you seen many people coming in just to be sure?
So look, if a person has a concern, if a person feels that they are at a significant exposure. So for example, when the Glen Hotel case happened, so if somebody was in and around that area, somebody was a family member of who was in and around that area, even if they were not symptomatic, and sometimes the venues are updated on the websites, that this is a website like the Grand Plaza or some Carindale markets. So even if a person is not around in that time but had been to that shopping center and they have a concern, they are more than welcome. Rather, they are encouraged to come forward and get tested, because even if you're asymptomatic, you still live in the community, and you can never know from where one day a community transmission can start, because the borders are now open and we have plenty of new hotspots coming in the New South Wales, which is just our neighboring state.
And that is quite rightfully said, because when these centers are declared, as was the case in the Glen Hotel, as you have rightfully mentioned, then people should do the right thing. And as you mentioned, that they are then encouraged to come and get the testing done. And of course, out in the community, who knows, who could be having that, so that social distancing and all that comes in too.
Yeah, emphasize one thing, that even before the health department identifies, like now we have identified anybody coming to Queensland after the 21st of December from Victoria should get tested. But by the time we make this information available to the public, there is always a delay, there's a lag. So if someone feels concerned, they should come forward and get tested.
And that is very important. I think that's a very, very important message that you have just said there, because at the moment, as soon as the new restrictions got announced in New South Wales and otherwise, all of a sudden, there's long and lengthy queues of people queuing up for the tests.
That's right, that's right.
Dr. Yi, once again, thank you very much for being on the show, and of course sharing that very, very informative session there. A lot of information that is, our people many times find it hard to find. Of course, there are websites, there are so many media releases that are being put out, but sometimes people find it hard to find all the right and relevant information. So you have covered the main points there on the things, and that I think one of the key factors there is that they don't have to wait in a long queue for a government, that they can go in a private clinic and get tested as well.
That's right. Just for the private clinic, you need a GP referral. So you have to make sure you can call your GP and get a referral on the email. Even the email referral is valid. You don't have to visit the GP if it's your regular GP. So you can just do a telehealth and get a referral. For the private labs, they need a GP referral.
Yeah, of course, with the referral, with your GP's referral, they can go. So once again, Dr. Ji, thank you so much for being on the show. Looking forward to probably catching up on a follow-up session later down the track.
Sure. Thank you so much. You all have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. That's a very, very informative session there with Dr. Snya Chadha, and of course, like to thank her for sparing that time from a very busy clinic and sharing that very informative session with us here. Well, right now, let's move on with the news, and let's take a look at what's being happening. Well, first of all, let's look at those cases in Berala.
So despite reporting no cases, there have been 2 cases overnight. One, a gentleman in his 40s who visited the BWS Berala on the 24th of December. And another case, a female in her 40s who also has some association with the BWS and the Woolworths at Berala, but those investigations are ongoing. And can I thank those individuals for coming forward for testing and also for their cooperation with the investigations. So just to summarise, the Berala cluster originated from returning overseas travellers, and then there was a healthcare worker, person who was involved in the transfer of those patients, and then that person passed it on unknowingly to a close contact, and that close contact went to the BWS. Can I just stress that at the time where the person entered the BWS, they had no symptoms and no reason at all to think they had COVID infection. And it really is important that we all bring that to mind, that any time we're out and about, someone could have COVID, and that's why we need those universal precautions of keeping that physical distancing and the mask wearing, particularly in those indoor settings. But we are asking the cooperation of people, anyone who attended the BWS or Woolworths in Berala Shopping Centre on Sunday the 20th of December between 12:30 to 2 p.m. are being urged to get tested immediately and self-isolate until a negative test result is received. Now that is a long time since that period, but what we want to do is pick up any people that may have been transmitted, then to assist us in blocking any further chains of transmission. It is critical that anyone who attended the BWS store between the 22nd of December and the 31st of December, even for a very short period of time, a few minutes during the times listed on the New South Wales Government website, gets tested and isolates for 14 days regardless of the result received. We are deeming everyone close contacts. And remember, what we're also advising is that your household contacts should remain isolated until you've got a negative test result. And then from the point that you get tested, you need to effectively have isolated from that household group. If there are difficulties with isolation within households, Health has arrangements in place where we can accommodate close contacts to support people effectively following the public health advice. And anyone who attended Woolworths in Berala Shopping Centre on the 24th of December from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m, on the 26th of December from 7 to 7:30 p.m, and the 28th of December from 7:15 to 7:45 p.m, and on the 31st of December from 10 a.m. to 12 noon is asked to immediately test and self-isolate until a negative test result is received, and then for them they need to monitor the symptoms, and if they get symptoms, get retested.
And that is very important to monitor that symptoms. And as we were talking to Dr. Snya Chadha, and here's the update from Queensland Government and the directive.
We do have 83 public Queensland Health Beaver clinics stood up across the state of Queensland, and today we have now seen the private sector reopen all of their clinics, and the Commonwealth has stood up most of their Commonwealth funded and run clinics. So there is a lot more testing capacity now available across the state. We've also increased the hours of opening and the numbers of staff in a lot of those clinics. So I know that there has been some queues that have developed over the weekend in some of those clinics, and I thank the people who persevered and got themselves tested. That is really, really important. I strongly recommend that people go onto the website and look at where their local clinics are, because we're tending to see people go and preferentially choose one or two clinics when there are a lot of clinics available, both public, private and Commonwealth clinics. So it's really important. Just look at what the options are, because there may be very lengthy queues at one clinic, but then no queue at another clinic.
So there you go. That reinforces what Dr. Tanya just said, that there are many clinics available, the public and private ones. With the private ones, as Dr. Snya said, that you would need a referral, and that's about it. And of course, if you're traveling to India, you need that test done 72 hours before, and with a GP referral, that is made possible as well. Well, while staying in Queensland, I'm also going to one of the places where we go, and it's often very uplifting to be at this academy. I'm talking about the police academy. At the graduation ceremony, when all the interns graduate, and they come out on the first day of service. So of course, at the moment, under the current restrictions, very few people are allowed. Normally, we go and attend all the graduation ceremonies. So here's a report of the new recruits at QPS.
Had a whole lot of nervous energy going on over the last couple of days, but it's extremely exciting as well. It's the first day of a new career. Today's the first day at the Academy. We're the first intake for 2021.
Being a part of one of the largest groups in the last decade at the Queensland Police Academy is a pretty cool feeling. So before I started here at the Academy, I was an animal trainer and presenter at a wildlife sanctuary on the Gold Coast. I worked with lots of different birds, mammals and reptiles, displaying shows and educating the general public.
I was a recruiter for a financial services company. So it's a bit of a change. But what inspired me to join the QPS was I wanted to serve the community and help people. It's always been, a little thought in the back of my mind, that'd be a cool job to do. But that thought never went away, and here we are.
I've always looked up to police officers as I was a kid. I was inspired to be them, and now is the time of my life to get that started.
And it's wonderful to see the new recruits coming in through because we always get a update on the recruits, and of course also from the cold segment there as well. Well, right now it's time to have a look at one of our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is that well. And don't forget that tomorrow, the first show of 2021 with Real Estate Update with Usha Chandra is coming back on, starting the 2021 series. Well, right now, everyone's worried about the cricket. Well, people say, how come that cricket gets this preference, and how come there's more people allowed to come to cricket than, other sports? Well, right now, New South Wales defends the Sydney Cricket Ground.
If you look at the SCG, and over the period of COVID, it's run something like 20 events and had about 150,000 visitors go through. And as a state, and our venues, like the NRL Grand Final, Origin or the Everest or other race days, the Big Bash, we can and we have shown that we can run events in this state in a safe way that protects our citizens, protect the players, protect those that attend. And most importantly, doing it in a framework that is COVID safe. Now, New South Wales Health, through Kerry Chan's team, have been working with the SCG and cricket to find that framework. And of course, each day we are confronted with other issues. There is now consideration that if it is wet weather, what does that look like? Will people be leaving their zones, their seats, and congregating under the shelter? They're the things that we've got to deal with. What do we do about mask wearing and maybe going up to the bar? Transport on the way in. I know transport have increased the number of options to get to the SCG, but again, they're the things we're working with the Trust. Can I say this? That we'll also give consideration to the numbers as ticket sales continue, and I will advise today that the SCG in cricket later today will be making an announcement in relation to the test. But we are confident that through the parameters set by health, the advice that government gets from Kerry and her team, that we'll take that all into account. Can I just say this? I know, for instance, for regional people, and as the Minister for Regional New South Wales and as the Deputy Premier representing the regions, I know for regional people, the New Year's test is something that is an annual pilgrimage. We love coming to Sydney for this very purpose, and a lot of the SCG members are from the regions. Now, in normal times, I would say that would be fantastic, but I would be saying to people today to consider what's occurring in Sydney with the infections and the restrictions. In regional and rural New South Wales right now, we're enjoying no restrictions. We got to have the summer and the Christmas we were robbed last year because of bushfires and drought. We got to have that this year because of the restrictions we've put in place in Sydney. So the risk would be that if someone from the regions comes to Sydney, that they could take it back to a regional area. So my advice to people would be, think about it, reconsider. Maybe this year isn't the year to come to Sydney to watch the test. And that's what we'll be doing. I'm not going to be enforcing people or putting in some a direction for people not to come to Sydney. But I think people, and I know regional people, use common sense and they will reconsider their visit. But right now, we'll continue to work with SCG through health and its advice to make sure we put on a test that is safe for the players, those that are visiting, and for the state.
So there you go, all those measures that are being put in. But even at that point in time, we're even putting those measures in place, the capacity is going to be at about 25% only.
Sort of crowd that we're talking to, there'll be plenty of space. I think one of the unique features about the SCG, as you can see, it's effectively 8 buildings across 6 stands. So in a sense, the configuration lends itself very well to the sort of separations and containment that are so important actually for a COVID-safe environment. But we're encouraging everybody who's attending to take every necessary precaution and follow the public health guidelines. That includes maintaining sensible social distancing. If people have symptoms on the day, they shouldn't actually attend and they should actually get tested to ensure that they are negative. And of course, wearing masks and following all the protocols and hygiene practices that have all become commonplace for all of us now.
And wearing masks is what she said, but there has been a big protest, anti-mask protesters. Here's a look at that. A good drama there. Well, by the way, when you look at that, while the government is asking people to wear a mask coming to the cricket match and everything like that, there are this kind of marches that are happening against the masks. Well, what do? Well, people say business is tough. Business is always tough. It is always hard. It takes a special kind of person to get into business. But what about getting into business, starting up during COVID-19? That takes a special courage.
Hi, I'm Mike Nolasopoulos and this is our brewery.
It's probably been in the work for many years. Mike and I used to homebrew.
There was probably a year and a bit of just planning, just working out whether or not we thought it would be profitable, whether or not we thought we could afford to do it.
Different to your traditional hot pot where you would normally dine in and cook everything on a dining table. We're the opposite. We're the laser way of doing hot pot. The lease was the biggest commitment we had.
Just pretty much anything that appeals to gamers and gaming culture we built here, including even an esports arena.
Once we'd settled on that location, we then spent a lot of time with architects, with interior designers, with technical people.
Even that week where we were opening the doors a little bit to some early sneak previews, there'd been a whisper that this coronavirus thing was going on.
It's a long road. Part of that was bureaucracy, which is a minefield. Then after that, we finally got under construction and then COVID-19 hit. You don't qualify for anything. We couldn't meet the JobKeeper side of it because we couldn't show a downturn in business because we weren't open.
There was a couple of supports that would have benefited us, especially the cash grant that was offered as well to small businesses that were operating 12 months or longer. Obviously, we weren't operating at all at the time, so we missed out on that.
Running tournaments, producing content, broadcasting that content online, that was an area of the business that we didn't think would come to the fore until 6, maybe 12 months after opening. But because of COVID and the shutdown of the traditional business, we accelerated and ramped up our capability in that area.
We initially wanted to open in March, and we delayed it until June. Because of those restrictions, because it runs like a buffet style, customers weren't allowed to do that, so we had to roster on extra staff every night just to pick food for the customers.
Reopening was fantastic and exciting for everyone. We are still feeling quite challenged by the fact that the CBD in particular still hasn't come back to life in the ways that it was pre-COVID.
Don't give up. Yeah, that's it. Just stick with it. Make up your mind, move with it, and COVID was just another hurdle.
Just another hurdle, and keep on keeping on and move on is the message there. Well, right now let's take a look at some of the functions and events happening in and around Brisbane. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's some of the functions and events taking place in and around Brisbane. And don't forget that on the 26th of January, Sri Vishnu Maya Mandir is celebrating its anniversary. And it will be a very, very big function. We'll bring to you lots of information on that in the coming days. And maybe probably we'll have an interview and we'll find out what's in plan, what's in store for that event there as well. Well, right now, before we finish up, let's go overseas and take a look at what's happening in UK, where UK is announcing a complete lockdown once again.
As I speak to you tonight, our hospitals are under more pressure from COVID than at any time since the start of the pandemic. In England alone, the number of COVID patients in hospitals has increased by nearly a third in the last week to almost 27,000. And that number is 40% higher than the first peak in April. It's clear that we need to do more together to bring this new variant under control while our vaccines are rolled out. In England, we must therefore go into a national lockdown which is tough enough to contain this variant. That means the government is once again instructing you to stay at home. You may only leave home for limited reasons permitted in law, such as to shop for essentials, to work if you absolutely cannot work from home, to exercise, to seek medical assistance, such as getting a COVID test, or to escape domestic abuse. If you are clinically extremely vulnerable, we're advising you to begin shielding again, and you will shortly receive a letter about what this means for you. And because we now have to do everything we possibly can to stop the spread of the disease, primary schools, secondary schools and colleges across England must move to remote provision from tomorrow, except for vulnerable children and the children of key workers. If our understanding of the virus doesn't change dramatically once again, if the rollout of the vaccine programme continues to be successful, if deaths start to fall as the vaccine takes effect, and critically, if everyone plays their part by following the rules, then I hope we can steadily move out of lockdown, reopening schools after the February half-term and starting cautiously to move regions down the tiers. The weeks ahead will be the hardest yet, but I really do believe that we're entering the last phase of the struggle, because with every jab that goes into our arms, we are tilting the odds against COVID and in favour of the British people.
And in favor of the British people, well said there. But of course, we know that 2020 is over, but the pandemic is not. And as he mentioned, that it is on us to do the right thing and fight that cause and get those jabs done when they become available. In many countries it's not available, in some countries it's already available, but the important part is the testing, as we discussed with Dr. Snya Chadha first up in the program today, about the testing, where you can get it done, how it is done, and what its implications are as well. So it is very, very important that we do get those testings already done. Talking about 2021, when people believe that 2020 was very bad, well, the social and the economic downturn will result, and that will have an effect in 2021. So with the easing of the JobKeeper and other incentives, the full impact will be felt in 2021. So, it's not a time to, lift your guards and go happily, merrily about, but also to be vigilant, be careful, be planning, and also be prepared. Be prepared financially, yourself, your business, and others. Have a plan in place to see what you might have to do, and be very, very careful. So once again, it's been wonderful having you on the show. It's always so good to see you. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. This has been another segment of Chentex Multimedia's live streamed daily update coming from sunny Brisbane.